Welcome back. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
Time for the papers this morning. Sajid Javid has declared that pay-per-appointment A&E and GP systems would be crucial in saving the NHS. That's in an interview he's given to The Times.
Labour has a woman problem. That's according to one of Keir Starmer's female MPs. That's on the front cover of the Mail this morning.
Let's have a look at the eye. Keep children at home during teaching strikes is the headline. Teachers across the country voted to strike in February and March, as you will know.
Holidays are receiving a boost, says The Telegraph, after the EU has delayed its fingerprint checks for arriving holidaymakers.
Has the key to eternal youth been found? Well, the Star thinks so. Apparently, sound therapy could reverse signs of ageing.
You're going to be doing a bit of that, aren't you?
I'm doing that on Sunday night.
I can't wait to see that. Well, it's time to go through the papers now, and joining us this morning is broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon and political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. And thank you for coming back for us, the two of you. Kevin, let's start with you, shall we? And this is the extinction of banks on the high street by 2027, according to the Express.
The Daily Express love a good campaign, a crusade as they call them, and they've launched a new one today on saving high street banks. So it comes on the back of yesterday. Lloyds announced that they're closing another 40 branches, which is a lot, obviously. And yeah, there's been a huge decline in the number of bank branches over the last, not actually that long, maybe the last decade, because people are just now doing much more online banking. But they're also shutting ATMs as well, because people just don't use cash as much.
Yeah.
They just do bank transfers or just, your debit card or whatever, which I can understand the economic argument for it if people aren't using the branches in the same numbers that they used to. But I just think for communities, this is the point the Express is making, especially rural communities, that's like one of the few
Hubs,
exactly, community hubs that they've got. And also, if you're an older person and you're not necessarily online, you still use cash. You don't transfer money online. You don't have an app.
But we're shifting into that position where that generation is going.
Well, it's completely manufactured, isn't it? And are we really surprised? This is the way that it's going. The fact that they're trying to move banks out of communities, I think it's a really wrong thing to do.
When's the last time you went into a bank?
Last week, actually, and I'll tell you why, because my uncle gave my kids cheques, and they're all over the place. So I have their bank details. I went into my branch of the Nationwide and paid in individual cheques, and I remember saying to the teller, this is why you can't close branches.
But except that people aren't going to be writing cheques. The number of
this is what I'm saying. It's manufactured.
Well, yeah, but it's like it's evolution, isn't it?
No, I think evolution at the cost of society, at the cost of a hub, at the cost of a community, at the cost of the high street.
So we need to keep banks open just so people have a place to gather, do we?
No, so people can have a place to bank and have social interaction. I mean, I don't really like this move to a cashless society either, because it's often people that are living in poverty or older people that can't cope with that because they need the cash. They need to be able to do it.
Admittedly, some older bit, and there'll be some old people watching now say, I use cash, I need my bank, and all this, and I would agree with that position. You can't close them tomorrow.
And we're still not a cashless society in the sense that people like window cleaners or house cleaners or people like to take cash.
I pay my window cleaner with transferring money on the app.
Yeah, but that's maybe a minority of society, but there's definitely a case for keeping cash in the community, cash in society, and I'm not a fan of all these closures for the banks either.
Well, experts reckon that in-person banking will be gone completely by 2027.
That's
5
sad.
years. That's
really? That is sad.
Actually, so it's not long, is it?
Well, call me old school, but I think if I've got a problem with banks or with money, I just like to talk to someone in person.
Yeah.
I just really don't like ringing up and trying to deal with anything. I'm even like in supermarkets. I'd much rather go up to a till and chat with someone than I would use the
self-checkout. I'm with you.
That's just the way but I do find with banks now, I mean, they are open now, but the hours are just so difficult to get anything done. I had a cheque a few weeks ago, and I must have gone to this bank 3 times to try and deposit this cheque.
Yeah.
They shut at 3 now.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I'm up and dressed and down to the high street,
Incredible.
it's gone 3 p.m.
You can use a cheque You can do it on your app.
You can do it on your app.
Can you?
Yeah.
You can pay in
See,
a
this
check
blows my
on your
mind.
app.
The Nationwide you can't. Because
Wow.
we still have buildings.
RBS does.
And this is,
I'm allowed to say that.
Barclays does.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
is it easy to do?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
just
you
scan it on your
take
phone.
a picture and
Off it goes.
Where we're going, clearly.
No.
And that, which is why they're shutting. Because you can
Yeah.
do that, is why they're shutting.
But you
What's
see,
going to happen to all the labour then that are employed by the banks? If you want to get a mortgage, remember the days you went into, if you were lucky enough to be able to even apply for a mortgage, you sat down with your mortgage advisor in the bank and they went through things. Now it's so, computer says no.
For something like that, a
There's
big
no
thing like
way
that, I
of
think I'd like to see somebody face to face to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then that's probably still, there's still going to be, you know, mortgage advisors and all the rest of it. There's
Well,
still,
if they're closing the banks, where are they going to have that?
because they're talking about having, I mean, post offices are running banking hubs now where several branches are using one post office different days of the week.
It's just very sad, I think.
Yeah, but we've got to move on. Society has to evolve.
I get
doesn't it?
that. But
yeah.
at what expense, though?
Well, if you're happy to pay £20 a month banking charge or whatever because you want to keep a branch open, which is what it's going to turn into, that'll be what it is. I don't want to pay it.
Well, do let us know what you think. I think that's going to get lots of you talking at home. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Should we be keeping banks open? Or should we be evolving? Should we be moving with the times? Should we be doing it all on our phones and tablets and computers now? Let us know what you think.
Does evolving mean we've got to start paying to see the GP, Claire? Which is what Sajid Javid is saying.
This is why I'm really pleased you brought about a good segue in. If you're not happy to pay for your bank, are you happy to see your GP? That's what Sajid Javid wants to do. He's got a double page spread here in the Times, and it's leading in the front page of the Times today too. He says we need to agree a new NHS future or 1948 dream dies. The 1948 dream, of course, was Nye Bevan, who set up the NHS in that year with the help of Barbara Castle as well latterly. The NHS, as we know, has become a highly politicised, over-emotive football politically. No one wants to take hold of it. No one wants to manufacture change in it. And as someone said on Twitter this morning, this is just another, is it a stealth move to privatise the NHS or remove the NHS funding, which, as we all know, we all pay for through our national insurance contributions. The only good thing about this is the fact that Sanjeev Javid is hopefully going to have a cross-party party put in place for this. So it is a cross-party decision. It will be cross-party people, MPs, taking control of the situation. We know the NHS is on its knees. We speak about it every single week. We have got a mismatch in terms of government targets for making the recruitment of GPs safe, for safe levels, to administer the NHS at the level that they want it to be measured at. And yet then they throw things in like saying, well, patients can self-refer themselves to hospitals. What good will that do? That will only increase waiting times, because there will be someone that will have to manage the referrals coming through from us that are not medically trained, and we will think through Dr. Google, we've got X, Y, and Z, put the referral through for that. And then if it's something like oncology for cancer treatment, where Cameron's legacy, I think, is one of the only legacy that he had, was bringing in the 2-week time, the time of the ticking clock from referral to being seen, if you've got a cancer query, and then it goes on to 13 weeks like the normal pathways. So we've got many things in here, too much to unpack in a paper review. People have got so many views on the way the NHS should be managed. The reality is it's never had any more funding than it has now, and yet it still is completely mismanaged.
But it's interesting, because when it comes to the most radical sort of potential reforms of the NHS, they're coming from the Labour Party at the moment.
At the moment, Labour are the ones talking about reform. You even had Conservative MPs criticising their own party, saying why are Labour the party actually? And you get the impression actually after maybe 13, 14 years in power, that maybe the Conservatives are just they've run out of ideas, and it's now people are starting to look at Labour and think, right, it's maybe time for a change.
Is there an argument, though, to say, in fact, the Labour Party are the only party who can actually reform the NHS?
Well, that's it. They're the ones who are, in the public's mind, they're the most trusted with the NHS. So they think, well, if Labour think it's a good idea, you're more likely to give them the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if the Conservatives talk about reform, people start thinking, privatisation, you don't like the NHS, you want to sell it off. So you're right, it's more politically beneficial for Labour and people are more likely to trust them. What I just think is interesting about this is that, Sajid Javid, he was Health Secretary at one time. He never mentioned it then. He ran to be Conservative leader twice. He never mentioned it then. He's been in government for a long, long time. It's only when, and now he's standing down, so it's only when they're on their way out that they start coming up with all these radical ideas, which are too politically toxic.
Well, this is it.
At the time.
You couldn't suggest it when he was Health Secretary.
Exactly. So you think, well, definitely time for a conversation on this type of thing, but there's no point saying it when you're on the road, when you're on the way out the door.
Yeah.
But you're right, politically, I think, even though people realise that the NHS is in trouble, mentally, the idea of paying for your GP, paying for the A&E visit, I think, trying to sell that to the public, I think you're no chance.
No.
Kevin, we're staying with you for the next one, talking about the death of banks vanishing from our high street, and emails could be in decline now.
Well, this makes you feel really old. If you can remember fax machines. You remember fax machines going out?
Telex.
I don't remember Telex.
Do you not remember Telex?
No.
Rip and read in the newsroom.
No, just fax machines.
No, Telex machines in the newsroom used to be Rip and Read, used to call it. So all the scripts came through and you rip it off.
Right. Was that on broadcast?
Yeah, on radio.
I see, right. In papers, it was just fax machines in the good old days. They've long since gone, and they're now saying, so Davos, the World Economic Forum, has been going on this week, and the chief executive of one IT firm who's saying that about 10% of his staff don't even check one email a month.
Yeah.
It's just because it seems too cumbersome, too slow, whereas it's much more likely to direct message, WhatsApp, Teams, even Snapchat. If they want to get something done quickly, you don't send an email. So now emails, like bank branches, are going the way of the dodo.
Oh, you won't like that, Claire. You won't like that. You don't like change.
I do. I don't like change for change's sake. Right, and I think if you're sending an email to someone, I still have it's grammatically correct, and I always put the salutation and the signature and the bottom of it, etc., etc.
Put a stamp on it.
Well, snail mail. Who doesn't love getting a letter through the post as well?
That's true.
It's so nice.
Well, saying that, I got a Christmas card yesterday from my brother and sister-in-law. Arrived yesterday.
Because of the post office strikes, probably. That's
very early, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, sending emails, stopping this. I think this is back to everything has to happen now. This is very much a Gen Z thing. They want the information now. They're so run off their feet. They need time to decompress and actually take the time to actually sit down and coordinate some thought. Instead of bad punctuation, poor grammar, bad spelling, that's the introduction now of this.
Yeah, but little voice notes and video messages. I can't tell you how many times a day my phone pings and it's Miss Costello here sending me a little voice note or a little video from some location.
Yeah, voice notes. Is that a thing now?
It is a huge thing.
Do you know what? I'm one of these
what
people.
What the young folk do.
Yeah.
Are you not into voice notes? And you're younger than me, Kevin. Come on.
No, I'm about the same. I'm 48. We're about the same age, have you not?
I'm 49 in about 3 weeks.
Oh, right, okay. No, well, I mean, I get the odd voice note like from a mate or my daughter. They send voice notes to one another from their pals.
Yeah.
True, but it's like what?
Once you start, they can
and you put it up to your ear.
Yeah. You'll be addicted. They're very.
They're fantastic.
Fantastic.
We send you a lot, don't we?
Yeah, we that's the only way we communicate. But I'm one of these people. Look, I'm sorry. Whenever I'm on emails, I'm like, look, can we just take this to WhatsApp? I find it a lot easier just going back and forth on WhatsApp.
It is quicker, yeah. I like WhatsApp.
And you can see when someone's online, and you can send emojis, and it's great fun.
I'm not into emojis.
Great fun.
Yeah.
So is that time? Have we got time for one more?
No, we're out.
So
you can thank you both.
We should have a gong.
We just sort of ground to a halt with WhatsApp there, didn't we? There you go. Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on, of course.